This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
This is Kyle Hebert, the voice of the narrator from Dragon Ball Z, and you're listening to A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily, there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words when no faith is empty. I stayed the course, though my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games, that come on and let's get it. Talk time live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. I hope everybody is having a great week. Seems that the season's starting to change. People are back in school. Things are back into play. Summer is absolutely over, no matter what you say. And it's time. The season's coming, and that means the fall season lineup is on its way. In about a month from now, all the new comic book based shows will be back with some new ones, some continuing episodes, some seasons actually ending, or series for that matter. We're going to talk about that as this is the 2019 fall season lineup. So we're going to break down everything that's coming up. Some things that already started, for instance, Titans season 2. So we're going to talk about that as well in our talk topic of the week. We got a lot of news going down this week in the world of our favorite fandoms. So let's not waste any time, folks. Let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, folks. First of all, it's hard to believe that this is the 199 edition of Talk Time Live. It feels like longer than that, but it is just 199. So the next week will be the 200th episode. We are going to look back at a lot of things. I guarantee that's going to be a thing. That we're going to look back at a lot of things that's happened, which led up to what's going on now in the world of Talk Time Live. So stay tuned for that next week. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do, but I got to celebrate it in a big way because 200 episodes, and again, that's not counting the amount of episodes that I've done for Select Start or the other shows that I had prior to the Epic Weekly Rundown that I used to do. The Digital Long Box. I mean, I did a ton of different shows leading up to just 2 different shows now. It's been a long ride, especially for those who are new to this, podcast. And thank you, by the way. And it's been a long road. It's been a really long road that led me to doing what I've been doing all this season and all this year. It's been crazy, but it's been a great run. I don't regret anything that has happened, so we'll talk about that next week on our 200th episode. But let's get to some news here, including let's break down the trailer we finally get to see of Bad Boys for Life, or Bad Boys 3 if you want to call it that, starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. They return together, and I'm ready for this. I am absolutely ready. I believe the majority of the fans already who have been aching to see the third run of this whole entire thing. So let's run down the trailer and see what happened here. Matt Lowry, who is played by Will Smith, and Marcus Burnett, played by Martin Lawrence, comes out of Matt's car, only for Marcus to hit the car door on a fire hydrant. Matt gets really pissed off. He's not happy, to say the least, and tells him that he's going to have to buff that out. So then a scene comes in that shows Marcus trying to settle things with a criminal in a calm way and tranquil way, only for him to get knocked on his ass. So, I mean, if you guys remember the last Bad Boys movie, he was trying to be a little bit more zen-like and tranquil and not be always upset, and he going to anger management and stuff like that. So it looks like he's still going into this situation here, and it's never working out for him, especially in these type of situations. So it looks like all the prime cast is back in this, at least. I don't know if Gabrielle Union is going to be back or a few others from the first two, but it has been shown that Joe Pantoliano, or Linio, I'm going to butcher his name big time. I'm going to say just Captain Howard, or for Matrix fans, Cypher. So he's going to be returning back as Captain Howard on this on this version as well. So also we see another scene where the new cop recruits are singing the classic Bad Boy song, and very badly, by the way, which Matt and Marcus stop them cold and tell them never to do it again. The plot seems to be here that the two are coming back together for one last ride before Marcus goes into retirement. They do unite to face an Albanian mercenary, from what I've read, who is out for revenge, as for them killing one of his brothers in the line of duty. So that's going to be the situation. New to the cast, though, is Vanessa Hudgens, in Riverdale fame, Charles Melton, who plays Reggie on the show. So this is the second time this guy is going to be in a really big produced and promoted film. The last film he did was somewhat of a love tale with with Zoe from Blackish. I forgot her name, but which is said to have been pretty good. So you could feel the CW all over that movie. By the way, I'm not sure, but I don't know. That might have been a Greg Berlanti film. I'm not sure about that, but they pushed him for that one, and now he's on here. He's getting out there, and I believe he was in Glee too, if I'm correct. I think he makes a great Reggie. He is the second Reggie to be on Riverdale. There was an actor that was there before, and they somehow replaced him for what I don't know, but he seems to be doing really good, and they really giving him some heat on that show. Now he's branching out already. So, I mean, it goes to show how really big of a deal that show is and how many people are benefiting from being on Riverdale. Riverdale is really a fantastic show. I actually did a poll on our A.C.M.G. Facebook group. If you're 18 or older with a legit a legit profile, you can join the A.C.M.G. Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/ACMG1. We, just for the record, just a side note, we've been getting a lot of people trying to get into this group. And a lot of them aren't able to get into this group because we have some questions coming up. And some of the questions are asking, do you have a legit profile of 5 years or older with pictures of you and you actually socializing and interacting with other people? This is social media, so we want legit people who are, one, not afraid to show themselves and who they are. Two, because this is social media. Two, that they're actually interacting. They're not trying to be this mysterious introvert, with just a profile and just you posting pictures and never showing your face and you wanting to have an opinion but not really showing who you are. Or you trying to troll or you not showing who you are. That's not going to have it. And we've had problems with that years ago, and that's our way of nipping it in the bud. So if you don't have a profile of 5 years or older with you actually being social in a way of you showing yourself and talking with others, I'm not gonna approve that. That is not gonna happen. So just a sure note for that. But if you do want to, if you meet all the criteria that we request, definitely come to facebook.com/groups/ACMG1 and join. A lot of fun. A lot of people get a chance to post and, speak their minds about all things anime, comics, movies, and games. Is a great outlet. So, but I digress. We actually did a poll asking people if they're ready for the long-awaited sequel. 93%, or as of right now, 93% voted hell yeah. With a minority base of, I believe, 8 or 9% now. At the time, it was 91 to 9%, but now it's actually gotten, it actually has grown a little bit more since the last time we talked, but, we had it at 91% saying hell yeah, and 9% voted nah. As in they're not interested. So the majority base are absolutely ready to see this, and I think it's going to be good. Will Smith looks fantastic as always. These guys are a lot older than they were before. Martin Lawrence still looks healthy. He's a little bit stacked than he used to be, but he still looks healthy enough to do what he's doing. And the storyline is based around them, still, being older now. So it makes sense. It all makes sense. And I think it'll work out. They've written the movie to match the situation of their lives, currently at this time. So it makes sense. It looks like it's going to be very interesting. And I don't know if Michael Bay is actually, I have reason to believe that Michael Bay is not directing this one. So that may be interesting too. So we'll see. We will see. And if he is, I'll figure it out. But this is one of the movies that Michael Bay always got right. When it came to his non-fictional science fiction or whatever type of films, he's actually really good. Like, we talked about this before a long time ago. We did an episode that was defending Michael Bay in a sense, like outside of the Transformers movies. He's really, like, Armageddon was great. He did a lot of other films that were just human-based, character-based films, and they were absolutely great. Bad Boys were always fun. The one he did with Mark Wahlberg and The Rock, and Anthony Mackie, was really good too, where they were like, it was based on a true story of like steroid users or whatever like that were robbing. I forgot. It was a really good film. Pain and Gain. That's what it was. That was really good. So this is where he rocks. So be really interesting that if he actually did, direct that film, this one in particular. So we'll see. So other news, I do have to bring this up. This week was celebrated by 2 anniversaries this week, and I want to talk about that. On September 4th was the debut of Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Now, why I want to bring this up is because this, at one point, I believe in 98 was the time that this one arrived. This right here was the most anticipated cartoon of all time because, Mario at the time was hot as hell. And this is around the time I think Super Mario 3 came out. And that was one of the biggest games to come out right now. So then they followed it up and kept the ball rolling with Super Mario Bros. Super Show, starring Danny Wells as Luigi and the legendary Lou Albano, the wrestling legend Captain Lou Albano as Mario. Now, given that this is the 80s, if a millennial at this day and age looks at this show that we have marveled at for so long, and we're looking at it through nostalgic eyes, a millennial at this stage will look at this like, this is the biggest piece of crap that you ever see. But to a person who grew up with this like myself, and at the time we didn't have anything better, this was one of the most sought after cartoons to watch coming home from school. I mean, you got to see Captain Lou Albano play the role as Mario, and you got to see Danny Wells, who was a very established actor back then and been on a ton of different shows, got to play this role as Luigi. I mean, you look back, there was a lot of cheesiness in the 80s. A lot of cheesiness in the 80s because they could get away with that stuff because there was nothing else. We evolve as time goes by. But back then, that was the set. That was the standard of quality that you would have, for something of that nature, of that genre, if you will. And if you look back, and then even furthermore, what really lured us a lot of us, was the fact that they had a hip hop intro. So this hip hop intro, again, you look at it today, this hip hop intro is the most generic form of hip hop that you could ever use. But back in the day, there wasn't that many shows that were supporting hip hop like that. That was like mainstream shows that were really, advocating or even, putting out hip hop like that. And this was one of the rare first that I believe that I remember that would actually have used hip hop for like an intro and everything. And again, if you look back at it, it's really cheesy. I still like it because it's from my era, but I can understand if somebody from the age will look at it now. That's like, this is the most god-awful cheesy, because this is like the standard cheesy hip-hop that they now use in commercials or certain demographic, I'm just going to say, use that style of hip-hop and think that it'll attract a certain other demographic of hip-hop goers, and it's not. It's like you don't know what real hip-hop is right now or how evolved hip-hop is becoming. You're dated with this style of hip-hop to the point, like, if you see commercials where and they use the following generic cliche verse and say, "I'm Dak Xavier Josiah, and I am here to say," like, if you even start off with spitting out some lyrics like that, you're done. Like, if Mega Ran ever did that for my theme music intro, we would not be working together. But thank goodness he is as talented. He is all hell, so that would never happen. But it's just a thing. It's like only people who don't understand hip hop, that's their go-to lyric. That's their go-to jump off lyric for this. So that right there. And furthermore, it also ends off with Captain Lou doing what he believes is called the Mario, which is this dance that he tries to teach us at the end of every show. Now, the show ends off and they do it doesn't do a hip hop, it does a song, and it has Captain Lou singing "Do the Mario." And he's trying to teach a dance that even he doesn't even know. So if you look back at it now, as kids, we're like rocking to it, but as grown-ups, it's like, what the hell is he doing? He's doing whatever the hell he wants, and he's just getting away with it. But it's the 80s, so he gets away with it because we're so naive. There was a certain level of naivete back then that we just ran with it, and we didn't know any better. And then as time went by, we look back at it, it's like, yeah, wow. So, but for nostalgic sake, I still love it. The cartoons actually within it were actually pretty good too. So they would do a live action version, and then they would also do a follow it up with an actual episodic episode of Super Mario Brothers and The Legend of Zelda. Now, The Legend of Zelda was also in this too, and that cartoon was so awesome. And it led off to the catchphrase, "Excuse me, princess," which everybody loved. It was like, that was just such a great show, man. I mean, if you take away the actual live action parts, it was actually a great show. And later on, they ended up not doing the live action version of it and just started showing the actual cartoon itself. And I believe it moved up. It was on local TV, like UHF TV, and then I guess they got a contract sooner or later that allowed them to do Saturday morning cartoons on NBC, because it started airing an entirely new cartoon based on Super Mario 3 started airing on there, and it became like sort of a cartoon block next to Captain N, the Games Master, and all this stuff, and Kid Video. Yeah, I'm aging myself. If you're listening to this now and you know what Kid Video is, yeah, you're old, brother. Or sister. You know what I mean? Kid Video was the truth. It was the truth. That was the highlight of the 80s right there. So that right there was pretty much it with that. We also are celebrating the 27th anniversary of Batman, the animated series, which also featured the debut of Kevin Conroy. And what can I say about this show? This show, that series changed the game so majorly. I believe it came right after X-Men, the animated series, which also, and respectfully changed the game, because the writing in that, while the animation and character design of that show wasn't great, the level of continuity and dialogue and storytelling was a step up from your normal way of watching a cartoon on Saturday morning or Sunday morning or whatever it came on. And it really, I think just the dialect and the episodic nature of how they did it, because before there wasn't too many episodic, animated TV shows that were, once like you watch G.I. Joe, they only rarely did they follow up on an episode prior to, and then every other episode was like random. Same with Transformers. They had a part 1, part 2 episode, but other than that, it was like they rarely followed up on what was going on in the last episode. But X-Men, they turned it into like a episodic drama where everything that happened in each episode meant something and was leading on to the other episode. And that was the start of how all other animated shows do TV now, do and write stories now. Shortly after, I believe, Batman, the animated series, came out. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Batman came out after X-Men. But because of the popularity of, the 1989 Batman, I believe, which was... Batman might have been out before that. I'm thinking about that because I think 1989 was when was the Michael Keaton Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, and they came out shortly after with that series, and that right there just changed. Yeah, I think Batman did come out before. I got to look back at that, and if anybody knows, let me know. Forgive me if I even forget, but it's like those two were just very instrumental of how they're doing TV. But I'll check back on that. But nonetheless, Batman was a step in just everything. Just writing, character development, animation. Warner Brothers went all out to put into this series, and the success of this series led to so much more. This was the genesis. That show was the genesis of the WB animated everything. WB animation and DC animation is the genesis of it all starting. If that show was not as successful, we would not have gotten Justice League Unlimited, Superman, Green Lantern, and then followed up with all these other movies and other TV series that we're seeing right now. I mean, Young Justice would not have been made have not for the success of this show, and let alone this series would not have been what it was, I think, if not for Kevin Conroy. I mean, granted, all the other people involved in it as well, but Kevin Conroy's portrayal of both Bruce Wayne and Batman is not only standard for the animated series, it's standard for live action as well. Like, people will compare him to all of those. Like, definitely better than Clooney, definitely better than Val Kilmer, right up there with Michael Keaton. It's his portrayal of that is just, it's just the best. And his voice, it's rare for somebody to be iconic just for one voice. There's only one other person that I can think of that is iconic for doing one voice and nothing else. But despite the fact he's done more than that, and that's Peter Cullen. Peter Cullen has done so many other voices. That he's done Robotech, he's done Voltron, he's done DuckTales, but nobody remembers him for anything else but Optimus Prime. He is that guy. And then he became the standard of the heroic, brave, gripping voice that we known to love. Like, the live action Transformers CGI movies could not be done unless Peter Cullen was in there, and that's how fans put it. And this is the same way. Like, everything is compared. Anybody who's ever done a Batman voice is always compared to what Kevin Conroy has done, bar none. And then follow up, you had Mark Hamill, who is famous for being Luke Skywalker, but is now also extremely famous, arguably, if not more, for being the Joker. And like the Joker. And you got to put it as the nobody. I mean, he's up there. You put him up there exactly the same with Heath Ledger, with, from what I hear, Joaquin Phoenix, with Jack Nicholson. He is up there as one of the greatest Jokers of all time, in the Mount Rushmore of Jokers right now. And I haven't seen Joaquin Phoenix yet, so that's still up for debate, but there's now Oscar talks and all that stuff, so we'll see. But it absolutely is just astounding of how this show was made. And Kevin Conroy, the production and everything. If you guys have not seen, last year, if you guys, again, for those of you who are new, if you have not seen, I had the opportunity, thanks to the people at Keystone Comic-Con last year, to be a part of a press interview with Kevin Conroy on Batman Day. And I have all of the footage of that on TalkTimeLive.com. So if you ever want to see that, or if you're in the A.C.M.G Facebook group, I actually just reposted it up on that day of, and it's on the announcements page as well. It's a great interview that myself and a whole bunch of other media folks got a chance to sit down in an intimate setting with Kevin Conroy and just listen to him and ask him, questions about his experiences and everything. It's absolutely phenomenal. Go out of your way to check it out on TalkTimeLive.com, especially if you can't find it. Type in Kevin Conroy. I will find a way to put it in Talk Time Live, maybe as a separate page or even an exclusive page. Well, I'm still working on that, but I just added some new stuff onto and updated the Talk Time Live exclusive page, by the way, too. So you can go to TalkTimeLive.com/exclusives to go directly to there, or you could just go to TalkTimeLive.com and click on the exclusive button at the top left to go in there as well. But it's just 27 years, and even furthermore, 27 years. I'm 40 freaking 2 years old. I can't believe it's been that long. 27 years that show's premiered, man. It's just amazing. It's just amazing that I'm getting older. That's what that's coming out to. By the way, it has been announced that Kevin Conroy will be reprising his role for the first time ever in live action during the Crisis on Infinite Earth. So get ready. That is coming. I am looking forward to that. So we will see that in some form or fashion. That's going to be absolutely awesome. I have a feeling that's going to be one of the highest rated episodes of the year for the CW. Because of him, I think they're gonna promote that. If they're smart, they should promote that heavily. They should promote that to the moon. There are a lot of fans out there that want to see him in this form. I am so looking forward to this as well. So going to some video game news real quick. Square Enix Marvel Avengers, it looks like it's starting to shape up a bit now, as they revealed some new that they will be having some new skins for the game. And they talked about this before, but now we got to see one of the first ones, and it is based on and inspired by some of Marvel Comics' most memorable sagas, including the first one here, which is based on the Secret Empire, which had Captain America as a sleeper cell agent for Hydra. If you guys remember that from a couple years back, that storyline was so crazy, because the announcement that Captain America was joining Hydra shocked, and it's rare to have shock value in this day and age, but it rather shocked people or pissed people off. And there was a lot of memes towards that back then. It earned itself a lot of memes back then. It was crazy. And the funny thing about comic books and when they do stuff like this, and whether it's DC or Marvel, and it's usually only DC and Marvel, like no other, I don't see any other company ever do stuff like this, because they don't unless I can see aside from The Walking Dead and maybe Spawn or something like that, do something. It's really funny because they do this a lot, and they're about to do it soon because apparently they're doing another murder mystery saga like they did before when somebody killed the Watcher, which was not really good at all. It was not, and I think that was right about the time I stopped. Original Sin, I believe it was called too. I think I stopped reading right about the time because it was like, this stuff is just, the writing here is just for Marvel. I'm hearing the House of M the House of X is really redeeming itself in the X-Men world, so that's great. I just need more. I need more to come back, and I need so much more to get back into the comic book helm, like, consistently. I do still jump on it from time to time, but consistently, I really need to know that it's becoming. We need another boom period, but they do this all the time. People get so pissed off. When they got pissed off when Peter Parker, or shocked when Peter Parker died. He didn't really die. You knew he was coming back eventually. And Doc Ock took over. They did this when, so many people. Charles Xavier died so many times. I mean, these guys always come back, but somehow, some way, it always shocks the world. It ends up in like major media news. It's just incredible. And this was one of the ones that happened here. And it's really astounding how they are able to do that. But Cap, this skin will be in there, and they have announced that other costumes will be unlocked within the game, as well as being available to purchase on the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live, I believe, as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. Now, I posted another A.C.M.G. poll asking members if they are excited about this game since they presented the more polished version of the gameplay video. It is now, at the time, it was 53% that said they are looking forward to it. 47% said, no, I'm not feeling it. It is now split in the middle, 50-50. Now, I believe this happened last time. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be really interesting. I myself was in the no section when it first came out. When it first was, they premiered on what was that? E3. I did not like what I saw. I didn't feel it at all. I thought it was. I don't understand why they even tried to think that they were going to be able to get away with that, and it led to a lukewarm reception from the live crowd at the time. Now, Gamescom came up and they promised that they were going to have another video. They were going to show the gameplay footage completely and polished. And it definitely was a contrast from what I saw from the original version, from the first version. It looked way more polished. Steve Rogers looked very young. He didn't look grainy or whatever like that. Black Widow looked a little bit much better than she did before, like everybody did. Thor's hair strands looked much better. They started looking like more like heroes, more than a gated community group of neighbors dressing up like cosplaying the Avengers for Halloween. So it looks much better. So I am actually a little bit more on the yes side now. So I'm switching onto the yes side with this. When you look at the gameplay footage, it literally is God of War. So in the recent God of War, not the original. I'm not mad at that. It's worth checking out. It has some great voice talent in there, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm just looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here with that game. And yeah, most likely I will have, I will jump on it as well. At this point in time, I will now. So I can only see it getting better from here at this point. So we'll see. So let's move on to some other news here. I got CEO of Sony Pictures, Tony Vinciquerra, says that for the moment, take heed on that. For the moment, the doors is closed for Spider-Man appearing in the MCU. I'm really interested in the fact that he said for the moment, because I wonder if he himself is saying, if this doesn't work out right, then maybe we'll work a deal with Marvel and Marvel Studios again about utilizing, them. I think well, basically, let me just move on to what I have here. Vince Kira made this statement in a recent interview on Variety.com, while also saying that there is no ill will between Sony and Marvel after the two failed to reach an agreement on financing terms for upcoming movies, which majority agree that it's just something Sony could have done with no problem. They would have got it back tenfold. With Sony Pictures working on 6 Spidey Rogue Gallery films, including the second Venom movie, and fans are wondering how the webhead will actually factor in all this. That's going to be interesting. The bad part is, like, Venom should never have been made, especially in that way. Not without Peter. If you guys don't know, the original story with Venom, one of my favorite all-time Rogue Gallery villains of Spider-Man, and also one of my favorite stories ever is that, Eddie Brock was a washed-up has-been of a writer, of a newspaper writer, and he set up this fake. He was one of the original guys to set up fake news. He written this, this buff piece or whatever like that, or this puff piece, or this he literally written up fake news about this murderer called the Sin Eater or whatever like that, and then it was Peter Parker or Spider-Man, I believe, that exposed him and found out that this whole thing was a fake, was a hoax or whatever like that, which then led to Eddie Brock being fired by J. Jonah Jameson, and from this point on, Eddie had a severe hatred for Peter Parker. And then this is when he was in the church, and then all of a sudden the symbiote that Peter had to fight off when he was in Secret Wars, was alone, and he was at a church, and he all of a sudden saw Eddie and decided to join in with Eddie, and they discovered that, they had a common bond with each other, and also later on that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. And this led to a whole entire thing, which led to Venom becoming Spider-Man's greatest enemy. And the only guy at the time to be able to not be detected by Peter's spider sense, which scared the living crap out of Peter because he never knows when he's coming. And it's the first time that this has ever happened to this day. Like I don't think they've ever made a villain as cool as him. And the only villain that could actually scare him, and Mary Jane, just absolutely tremendous writing with that one. So the other thing that I don't know either that we're still questioning is whether other cast members from the MCU will be available for this, like Zendaya's MJ, Ned, Flash, Betty, all the others. They're just gonna revamp this whole entire thing in this world. It's gonna be crazy. Vince Akira also quoted that in the article that Spider-Man was fine before the event movies, did better with the event movies, and now that we have our own universe, he will play off the other characters as well. The only true fact about this is that if he's being broad about the fact that Spider-Man was fine before the event movies, he must be basing it on Spider-Man 1 and 2. Because that's the only movies there were 5 live-action Spider-Man movies out. Only 2 of them were absolutely successful. Like from a critic acclaimed and critic review standpoint. The other 3 were met the box office, smash levels, but they weren't successful as far as quality. So if he's basing it on that, it's kind of loose end to me. It's like you really you're poking the bear right there with that one. So I am just saying, like, there's a possibility that this can happen. He goes on to say that I think we're pretty capable of doing what we have to do here, and I can't disagree with him on that. It's absolutely a possibility. Again, they did Spider-Man Homecoming, and whether you know it or not, Sony also worked on another big hit that came out this year, and that is Amazon Prime's original series, The Boys, which that show was absolutely awesome. So they do have some legs to stand on with that in the Oscar-winning movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And added to that, you got to count Spider-Man for the PS4, because that story alone, which I played like 3 times so far, that story alone, like literally, is a movie in itself. You can really, if you can level that up to the movie state. Even Tom Holland even said, like, he even pointed out, like, you gotta say the universe that is the PS4. That was a very awesome game, as well. So yeah, you really, you kind of, as much as we don't want to, there's a puncher's chance that this can actually work out, that their use of Tom Holland and their stories or whatever can possibly work. I think I will be a little bit more confident if they can grab the director of Homecoming and Far From Home. If they can grab that director, I'm all for this. I am absolutely all for this, because I thought he did a tremendous job, and I think he can shed some light into the situation. So I'll be a little bit more confident, at least. I don't want to say I'm all for it, but I'll be a little bit more confident in them actually doing this. So we'll see. I mean, it's just we're just at the beginning process of what the hell Sony's going to do and how they're going to play this off and whatnot. So we'll see. We will see. Last bit of news I believe I have here is us updating the situation, giving an update on the situation with the Funimation controversy. Nothing has really changed as much. If you guys remember last week during the talk topic of the week, I had some updated news based on Chuck Huber, Android 17. So everything's still in play, but there was some developments just yesterday in Vic's case, so we'll be talking about that as well. But it's just dating back from last week to today. So far, we have nothing from the anime company in response to the leak audio presented by lawyer Nick Rekieta, last week. Nothing as well from actors Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat, who plays the voices of Goku and Vegeta. Chris Sabat also plays virtually a whole bunch of other characters, not only in Dragon Ball, but also in other shows as well. He's All Might on My Hero Academia as well. A lot of that plays a factor as well. I mentioned recently that Chuck Huber, also who plays Android 17, filed an affidavit which talks about some of the behind-the-scenes antics involving Chris Sabat and his intentions to vilify Vic Mignogna, which includes getting him fired from Funimation. Now, in Chuck Huber's affidavit, there are a lot of interesting things that has him defending Vic Mignogna and is telling about his experience and his perspective of what he's seen and heard in the studios, in the Funimation studios, based upon what Chris Sabat and others have said. There's some highlighted stuff here, and I'll just say some of it. In the conversation, Chris Sabat verbally disparaged Vic's Christian faith and speculated that Vic was actually gay based on the way he dressed. Yeah, that's not a good thing. That's absolutely not a good thing. Further down, in approximately 2007, Vic began the practice of autographing artwork depicting anime characters for money at anime conventions. Interesting. Other voice actors, Jamie Marchi, Monica Real, and Chris Sabat, and other Funimation employees initially described the practice as stealing from fans, using fans, or being an asshole. We all later adopted the same practice and currently follow those practices in conventions. This behavior by voice actor, including Jamie Marchi, Monica Real, and Chris Sabat, and other Funimation employees towards Vic's successful business tactics demonstrates long-standing negative opinions about Vic. And lastly, in this affidavit that I'm going to talk about, in virtually all conversations I had with these voice actors when Vic was not present, disparaging remarks were made about Vic. Typically statements including, he's a prima donna, he's a douche, he's a diva, his clothes are gay, plus comments of his, what is this? Purported infidelity, dislike of his conservative Christian beliefs, and personal attacks for his support of Donald Trump. All of these comments were made at one time or another by Monica Rial, and yada yada yada. So, all right, here's the situation. Here's my well. Before I get that, okay, let me continue with this. Meanwhile, Vic Mignogna tweeted somehow of an Easter egg tweet with him drinking from the Holy Grail and saying he chose wisely, referring to a scene from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Many believe that this was a redemption tweet after the reveal of the leak audio from an affidavit of Chuck Huber. But just yesterday, there are reports saying that the judge has dismissed several points made from Vic in defense of Jamie Marchi, Monica Rial, and Ron Toye. Jamie Marchi walks free from the case. Many are praising Jamie's lawyer, Sam Johnson, for his defense in the court case of Jamie. Also note that no one has yet to hear from Toye and Entertainment or Sony on this as of yet. Sony owns Funimation, as people know. We reported this a while back that they have owned the rights to Funimation, so Funimation is an extension of Sony now. Toei Entertainment owns the rights to Dragon Ball in Japan. The news has reached Japan via an article from IGN.com. No word also on what Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama has to say as well on this. My thoughts. Again, as you guys know, Vic Mignogna has been on his show twice. Man, in fact, I believe he is the first major guest I've had on this show before. That doesn't make me an advocate of Vic or become part of the I Stand With Vic situation, nor am I an advocate of Kick Vic. I am innocent until proven guilty of Vic right now. I know from my experience with talking with Vic that he's been extremely nice. I believe myself to be a good sense of character based on my experiences in life, both in study and just general experience. I know how to use critical thinking. I've used that many times, both in life and business and social gatherings. So, upon meeting Vic, I've said this before, I've never had any trouble. He didn't give me that he's a prima donna vibe. He didn't give me that, he's a centric vibe. He didn't give me that, he's a douche vibe. Everything that was mentioned here, I don't get that vibe from him. He, to me, is a very... he's a very energetic, vigorous, happy dude. That doesn't mean he's gay, nor is anything wrong with being gay. He has, whether he's a Trump supporter or not, that's his deal. He has a perspective. That's his deal. That's his big. Regardless of his thoughts, he's never come on this show. We never talk politics. Never cared to talk about politics. They've been saying he's a homophobe. That is, whether that's true or not, that's something that has to be cleared by him. He claims not, based on a hearing that he's done. I know people I am close with who has worked with Vic Mignogna. Some of which that is a part of the LGBTQ community. They have worked with Vic. They have mentioned that they had. He has his ways, and he is very strongly Christian, so the thought of the LGBTQ community is something that is a situation with him. However, they also going on to say that he's never, pushed that situation upon them. So that is the situation. He's spoken about his beliefs in it, but he's never, when being approached by them or hung out with him, they've never, it's not saying he's a total angel. Some of the things that I've heard, I mean, his strong Christian beliefs has been a certain thing that he has approached and has been said has been a thing. So it is what it is. But that doesn't all, equate to him being the person that they say he is, or, regardless. What you just don't do is try to screw a man over because you have some beef with him. So if that is the case, yeah, Chris Sabat, he has some. That dude, he's got something. He got something to speak up to. Like, he's got some explaining to do. A lot of them have some explaining to do, and all of this, and then you got Sean Schimmel, just aggressively shouting out, homophobic slurs as the character Goku. Not really a good thing. In studio time at that. So they got some explaining to do. And again, Funimation on Twitter has not spoken anything of it. They're keeping it moving. They're still advertising all the things, and in some cases as they should, because I guess they're trying to weigh out the situation. Meanwhile, again, both Chris Sabat and Sean Schimmel, and I believe the voice of Krillin may have not done it either. Whereas Chuck Huber is just all over the place. He's continuing to post and does. Vic is continuing to post and such like that. So it's just going to be an interesting situation, because with all this going on and how powerful Chris Sabat is, this can insanely affect Funimation with the license of the Dragon Ball franchise. This can really affect them badly. And if Toei Entertainment decides that they want to, breach a contract, or even just fire those two and just get a whole new studio or whatever like that, that can happen. I mean, Dragon Ball Super is done. Dragon Ball Super is all done. If they really wanted to, they can just let them go. And that's a big loss for Chris Sabat, because he does a lot of those anime shows that are on Funimation is done under his studio. That's a big loss for him if this goes into a situation. Again, it's been insanely quiet at the moment, and even furthermore, here's the bad part. If Funimation decides to rather forgive them, that's going to cause, and just let this slide, that's going to cause some controversy, because they fired Vic immediately upon the allegations and everything of him making these sexual advances and stuff, and sexual assault cases and everything. That's going to be, it's just a really bad situation for Funimation in general right now. I just can't see, I don't know what's going to become of this, but either way, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for somebody. It's just like one of those situations, no matter what move you take, you're damn if you do and you damn if you don't. So, I don't know, man. We'll see. I can't make any of this right now. I can't predict any of what's happening. I just know if one move happens, it's going to affect another move in a bad way. If they settle with Vic and let him work the studio, that may be some things. But at this point, consider everything that's happened, what are they going to do? Chuck Huber, he just did an affidavit statement stating all of this that has gone on. Not only him, the voice of the original Goku, of young Goku, has spoke her mind as well. I believe she's the same woman that plays in OKKO right now. She has spoken her mind recently about the situation as well. So, I mean, that's two people speaking about this. So, I mean, these guys are not out of the blue. Let's see what happened here. I mean, yeah, Monica and Jamie and the rest of them got out of that one situation, but that's not mean that they're out of the clear. That does not mean that they're out of the clear for any situation. HR is still going to play a big factor in what's going to happen with these guys. If they even get a slap on the wrist or just fined, that might not be enough. Because, again, Vic was immediately fired. So the morale situation based upon the internal and external, when I say external, that means the fans, that's going to play a factor. Funimation is in a real bad place right now. And I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for them to... And I just talked, you know what's funny? I just talked about this too. I wrote something on my Facebook page just today, just this morning, and thinking about all this. And it's asking, basically, are we a society, let me rephrase that. Are we as a society weakened so much by fear that we are no longer strong enough to forgive? And that came about not just because of the Vic Mignogna situation, not just because of the Chris Sabat situation, not just because of a lot of other situations going on here, but just in general. I think this generation alone has been fearing so much about things and not willing to forgive, or not being strong enough to forgive. You know, not just forgive anybody, for those who want to make amends, who truly is wanting to make amends for the efforts that they have done in the past. We're going back and diluting back to a situation where we're this close to cross burning people. We're just close to witch burning people all over again for what they've done and not giving them a chance to redeem themselves. We got to set ourselves back. I don't say we should forgive everybody, because there's some people who aren't worthy of forgiveness and aren't looking for it either. So we don't point at those, but those who really want to show their forgiveness, are we strong enough to do so? Think about that. You know, do it on a case-by-case basis. Use critical thinking. If you don't know what critical thinking is, look it up. But it's a great tool to really weigh out the situation, evaluate the situation, and say, yeah, this person did this. It hurt. It hurt my feelings. It broke my heart. It affected me. Am I strong enough to forgive? Does it affect Hill if you do? You know, think about it. Have these guys, let's see how these guys do. Like, you know, James Gunn did something a long time ago. He's apologized for it. Kevin Hart did something a long time ago, has apologized for it. You know, think about it. Think about it. Have we forgiven everything? Can we forgive? Are we strong enough to forgive in this generation? Think about that. So while you do that, we're going to end what's new in the world of A.C.M.G. Take a break, come back, and talk the 2019 fall lineup season of comic book-based TV shows. Which one are you looking forward to? We'll talk about that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our A.C.M.G. content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things A.C.M.G.
Talk Time Live.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go, and you are listening to A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live.
Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Fight!
All right, folks, we are back with our talk topic of the week, and we are here to talk the 2019 edition of fall season lineup shows of our favorite comic book series. CW is coming really hard this year with some shows. We got the DC Universe lineup. We got HBO coming up. We even got ABC coming up with something new. So we're here to talk about all of that. But first, to start it off this season, Titans Season 2 begun this week. This Friday, the latest episode, the season premiere episode of Season 2 came. So we're going to talk about that before we talk about all the other ones. And we finally get a chance to see Trigun, or is it Trigun? I'll say Trigun. We get a chance to see Trigun in full form. And as always, the CGI is not bad at all. I actually enjoyed it. I did notice that it felt like it was not assimilated into them per se. When I say that, there are times like if you watch, all right, give a great example. If you watch Endgame, if you watch Infinity War, and you see Thanos right next to, Zozadana, as Gamora, they look like they're absolutely next to each other. Like his texture, everything looks so organically real that it looks like he's a real person. They did really good with Trigun here. But something about it, the CGI of it, the texture, or even the green screen of it all, really kind of, as great as it looked, it didn't look like he was actually with them, per se. So, even The Flash is a great example. I think they do a great job with CGI in The Flash. And this is Greg Berlanti, so I mean, it wasn't like terribly bad, but it felt slightly off just a bit. But the actual model of Trigun looked awesome. I really liked the way he looked. He looked, like the actual character from the comics or whatever you've seen him from before. So that was a pretty good plus. It wasn't like blown away like, oh wow, this is really good. But the model itself looks great. I just think implementing him into the green screen or whatever they were using to assimilate him next to them, it needs a little bit more work on that. Jason Todd, to me, was pretty much the standout for me on this series, on this episode, because he's Jason Todd. He's just going crazy. He's acting like a fool. He's a kid. He needs to be polished. I want to talk about also Game of Thrones, Ian Glenn portraying the role of Bruce Wayne, which to me, he was a little, his portrayal of Bruce Wayne was a little bit lukewarm for me. First of all, when he first came in, I just turned around and looked at the screen and I'm like, wait, is that Alfred? And lo and behold, no, he's portraying Bruce Wayne. I didn't like the scene too much with him and with Robin or Dick for that matter, because whenever they panned the camera on to Bruce smiled. Like he smiled, he grinned. And it could be because this was years of me again watching, Christian Bale and watching and listening to Kevin Conroy and seeing his portrayal of this dark and gritty Batman. I haven't seen, or even Michael Keaton or all the others. I haven't seen this type of Bruce Wayne in quite some time. So I'm not saying it's totally bad, because Adam West wasn't that grim and gritty either. But I've been induced to years of a gritty and dark Bruce Wayne. This one was kind of like he was chilling. He was kind of a elegant Bruce Wayne, if you will. I mean, it just based on my preference and choice, I felt like I'm used to the grim and gritty Bruce, and the way that Dick always described him throughout the years, seeing him right there and having him smile on the camera and all that stuff, subtly in camera, it just felt off. It just felt off to me. So, I mean, to me, it was a little bit lukewarm. Hopefully we get to see more of him as time goes by and see what happens there. I don't know if this is a one-time thing for us, but we do have a Bruce Wayne in there now, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. S.A. Morales' Slade also debuted in this episode. I didn't get too much of a read out of this character enough to truly give a say. I can say, however, visually, he looks the part. There will be some comparisons between this version and Arrow's Slade, played by Manu Bennett, whose portrayal was, to me, the standard of live-action versions of Deathstroke. Like, that dude played a very convincing Slade. He's the reason why Arrow Season 2 is probably still the best season of Arrow of all 8 seasons ever. Like, that dude was phenomenal and really grabbed you. So, he's going to have some shoes to fill in this one. But, as far as visually, he looks the part. So, we'll see how he goes. We'll see how this goes. Because, like I said, Bennett's, he set the standards for Deathstroke, man. So, overall, the Greg Berlanti show, of all the Greg Berlanti shows that are out there, and there's a ton of them out there now, Titans remain, to me, still the weaker of the bunch. And that's not saying that this is a bad show. It's just when you compare it to all of the other ones, The Flash, Arrow, even Legends of Tomorrow, even Black Lightning, and Supergirl. Those are heavyweights to me, and this one is still climbing to or racing to be in the same lane as these guys. So we will see how this goes. It's not it's a really fun show. It's just not a blow me out of the way show. Not yet. But I feel like there is some potential for it to actually grow. So I think the story is getting tighter. I like the story between Trigun and Raven that they are doing, and Deathstroke is coming, so we'll see what that is. I'm interested in seeing if Tara's going to come in sooner or later and play a factor, because I believe Markovia was mentioned in this episode. I'm not sure. There's also the development of Raven and Gar, Beast Boy in this. So it's turning out. It's turning out. They're doing. I like the characters. The actors are pretty good. I think it's just a matter of strengthening the story development, tightening up the CGI just a tad bit. And we'll see. We'll see what happens from there. Right now, it's enough to just have fun and enjoy, just to watch. So this is not. If I would say this would not be the reason to get this DC universe, but it's an addition to what they have right now. So other fall season shows are coming up too. So we're going to talk about that right now. So I am very interested. I wasn't at first until I found out that this was based on a graphic novel, and that was Stumptown, starring Kobe Smolder, which is coming September 25th on ABC. I had no idea that this was based on a graphic novel comic, and it is. So it seemed a little bit interesting, but it looks like at the same time your casual Magnum PI style Hunter. Again, I'm aging myself. If you guys knew what the hell Hunter is, you're up on my age level. So stuff like that. So I'm slightly interested in that. The Walking Dead season 10 premieres October 6th. This time involving the Alpha and the Whispers. Situation continues. Plus, the people of Alexandria are looking to take out some of your favorite characters there. So I haven't watched. Excuse me. I haven't watched The Walking Dead since the debut of Negan. Jeffrey Dean Anderson, if you will. And since that time, I have not been interested in staying. They were very off-putting throughout the season. It was like they kept focusing on episodes that weren't involved with Negan or the rest of the cast or whatever. And it was like the side casts that were never really developed like that. And it made for some boring TV. So it really kind of turned me off from continuing to watch what was going on. And every time Negan got back on, that's when things were better. So it was just off and on. I heard it got better by the end, but at that point, I was just like, all right, I think I'm done with The Walking Dead at this point. And then everybody's leaving and everybody's dying. So we don't know what the hell's going to happen this season. I don't even know if this is the final season or whatever. I don't think it is, but 10 seasons, 10 with the majority being so powerful, I wouldn't be mad if this would be the last or the next season be the last run right there. But I do hear that there's talks, I believe, possibly, don't quote me, I've been hearing that there might be doing another spinoff maybe. I'm not sure. But we'll see. But one of the shows that I am really looking forward to is Batwoman, starring Ruby Rose, which premieres October 6th on the CW, which I believe is a Sunday. It's going to be a big night for the CW on Sunday. You got Batwoman that's coming out. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on here. I have that which is coming up on Sunday. Then we got Supergirl shortly after, which was premiering. That one's going to be another big one. Last season was probably the biggest season Supergirl's ever encountered. Last season, we had the situation that was tying into a lot of what was going on today. You know, instead of using, you know, the Mexican community as a target, it was the alien community as a target. And you had this activist group, this anti-alien activist group that were, you know, by Agent Liberty that was coming out and creating so much satire and havoc. And it really empathetically really felt into people. They also had some new characters as well, you know, some representing transgender community, which was awesome. And the show just got so much better this season. And then furthermore, it ended with Lex Luthor, played by John Cryer, who blew me away with his performance. This is not Alan from 2.5 Men. This is a totally, like, this dude could be vicious if he want to, and he did absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, he did not last throughout the entire season, but he left something really interesting here. So this season, this is going to be interesting. A new secret organization called Leviathan, headed by what is believed to be Talia al Ghul, will be coming this season. Now, I don't know if this Talia is going to be connected to the Arrowverse, because if you guys remember, Talia, well, if you guys remember Supergirl, although they connect, they're from a different Earth. So I believe when Crisis on Earth, Infinite Earth comes, I think there may be an assimilation of universes coming together, a merging of universes coming together, which includes Batwoman as well. So I truly believe that might happen. That's my prediction there for that. But it looks like Lana Luthor will finally become a villain in this season, thanks to Lex, who revealed that Kara is actually Supergirl. And she's not going to be happy about that. In fact, she wasn't happy about it. John Jones as well will be facing his new enemy, which is actually his evil brother, who's coming in this season. So you got that to look forward to. The interesting factor here is that Mehcad Brooks, who plays James Olsen, finally will have his final run on the show. He will be leaving this season. So I don't know how they're going to end that season with him, or is he going to die? How they're going to do it? I don't know. We will see. There were talks, I heard that Wynn is going to be returning from the Legions. He left with the Legions last season or season before, and we haven't seen him since, and it looks like he's going to be making a comeback soon as well, probably replacing, filling in the blank for James as well. So all this is leading to the Crisis on Infinite Earth, which is coming December. And like I said, I've said it many times, if you've seen any of the actual shows from the CW, the crossover shows, you are in for a treat. Like, these are some of the most epic, like these... The crossovers are so good. They actually are better than some of the DC films that have come out. Like Crisis on Earth X. If you compare that, if you tell me to watch that or watch Justice League, I'm watching that. I'm watching Crisis on Earth X. That saga was so freaking cool, and it led to some really great surprises, some tragedies, all that stuff. It just gave you everything from there. Then we also got Black Lightning, who returns on October 7th, so now it's been moved to a Monday. So I know what I'll be doing instead of watching wrestling, thank God. Or WWE wrestling, thank God. This season will also see the characters finally cross over with the DCW universe, or the DCW shows, as they will enter the Crisis on Infinite Earth. Now, I kept telling people that, like, this is connected to the Arrowverse, and I don't know why people, obviously those who thought that it wasn't, they haven't been watching the show, because Oliver Queen has been mentioned, The Flash has been mentioned on their show so many, not so many times, but various times throughout the few seasons that has been out. So it was inevitable that they're going to meet up sooner or later, and it was going to be probably in a crossover. And in fact, it may be the biggest crossover to date that is coming too. So I'm looking forward to that. Tobias, unfortunately, will not be on the season. At least we think that he won't be in the season, because they finally took him down last season. Black Dynamite has been tremendous. I love what they've done with this show. I know there's some people who aren't really big fans of the show, but also there are some people who are not understanding the continuity of the show, or doesn't have to understand the continuity of the show. This is geared for a certain demographic and a certain culture who understands this show and needs this type of a hero, and it needs this type of a continuity, and needs this type of a message to be heard. I think they did a great job. I still want to know what Robert Townsend's play is going to be. I know he's directed some shows, but he's also been a character in the show. I'm wondering if this is leading to him becoming a villain or something like that. And to some extent, I just feel like something's going to happen. You just don't bring Robert Townsend in to a show like this and not do anything. The same way that you wouldn't do Bill Duke. You know, this is the other thing I love about it. These are some of the most established, legendary actors coming into this show. And again, there's a certain demographic and a certain generation who doesn't understand the value and continuity of the show. A lot of us do. And the show has not disappointed me. I've loved this show to high holiness, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to blend in with the rest of them. And by the way, shout out to Black Lightning, who's the newest leader of the Justice League, for goodness sake, on Young Justice. So, take that. So, they're also... Speaking of Bill Duke, there also is the issue of the family being found out by Agent Percy O'Dell, played by Bill Duke, who is one of the most treacherous, scary dudes on the show, who does, as far as we know, nothing. But he's able to, I don't know, I can't wait to learn more about his character, because he just seems to be everywhere and anywhere at any time. And the fact that he crept up in their house and really put him on blast like that, is going to be interesting. So I think there's going to be some type of a situation where Bill Duke is working with them this season, or he's setting them up, or he got something going on. I have no idea. I'm just looking forward to it, and seeing what new enemies they're going to be fighting this year if Tobias is going to be out. Yeah, so that's going to play, because I never read the comic before. Of course, it's a DC comic, so I barely read any of DC like that, to know his role, Black Lightning's role gallery like that. So, very interested in that. The Flash Season 6 premieres August 8th on the CW. So, every day, think about this, from Sunday on, there's going to be a different CW show based on a comic book on that channel. CW should be called Comics Worldwide. It's just, most of their biggest shows are factored in based on the popularity of their comic book series. It's just undeniable. So this season is going to be interesting, because last season, with Nora dying and evaporating last season after defeating Reverse Flash and Cicada, you got to wonder with Barry and Iris how they're going to recover from all this. I mean, they were left in a really bad light back then. Then, last season was also good, with the exception, speaking of Cicada, Chris Klein, who possibly had the worst performance of any character in Flash's run. I'm not a big fan of Chris Klein, for a lot of reasons. I can't describe the words. I can't come up with the words to articulate what I don't like about Chris Klein, but he's so generic. Well, besides he's bland, generic, vanilla. Excuse me. And I really am not a fan of how he performs. And I think what really pissed me off is The Legend of Chun-Li. Take note. Part of it is also the writing, part of it is also the directing, but another part of it is his performance. He plays the most generic characters I've ever seen. I don't understand how he gets. I don't want to be. I don't want to be rude. Don't want to be rude at all. I got to find something that's good with Chris Klein in there. That's all I got to say. I have not found, and more than just American Pie. Because American Pie was so long ago, and he really wasn't that much of a character on that show, or that movie either. He wasn't really a standout character. They just had a role for him and a part for him. But he didn't do anything that was stand out. He was, if you put him in a list of characters with all the others, he was just a side note of a character. They just happen to have, notes for and lines for. But his role as Cicada was, it was dreadful. It was so dreadful in there. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be the next villain up against the Flash, and all this leading into Crisis on Infinite Earth as well. This will be a part of it, as well as Black Lightning, Supergirl, Batwoman, and the Legends of Tomorrow will also be in the play as well. Which, by the way, that's the only show I think I didn't look up to see when that was coming. I believe that will be coming as well. Maybe later on, I'm not sure. I didn't get a fix on that. But on the 9th, on the CW, is the premiere of Riverdale, one of my absolute favorite shows. Bar none, no powers needed here, no gimmicks needed. We left last season with Archie finally getting his clearing his name. These guys celebrating by going out into the woods, and at the very end, something happened when the crew stood in front of a fire, very scared and afraid, with them saying that they would never mention this night in the events that happened ever again, and that would also allow them to part ways to avoid getting caught. This followed by them throwing Jughead's beanie into the fire. That was a hell of a cliffhanger last season, and I am like, dude, I hate them so much. And in about less than a month from now, in about a month from now, actually, we will find out what the hell happened and what is this leading to and whatnot. So I am looking forward to this as well. There is a spinoff that is coming as well. Another spinoff for Archie as well. I think it's, I forgot the name of it. Let me see if I can get this, because I meant to add this to my notes as well. And let me see if I still have it up. Because it was a spinoff to... All right, we got Harley Quinn coming as well, so I forgot. I don't want to forget that, which is coming in October as well on the DC Universe. Let me see. Wait. Yeah, Katie Keene. Okay. So Katie Keene is yet another Riverdale spinoff, which is by Lucy. It's starring Lucy Hale, who you've seen her in Pretty Little Liars. You've seen her in a whole bunch. CW uses her a lot. I remember she was in her first show on the CW was something of her being a really, really rich girl with her sister or whatever like that. I forgot the name of it of the show, but she's been on a ton of different shows ever since. She's a extremely attractive woman, but I got a situation with this because Katie Keene is a character in the Archie universe, which is awesome. So they're spinning off from that, just like they do with Sabrina. That is also a spinoff from for Riverdale as well. My problem here is that one of the characters, the side characters in this show, is Josie from Josie and the Pussycats that was on Riverdale. Josie, who played by Ashley Murray, is playing a role of a character that, in all honesty, should have her own show. Yet she is jumping onto seriously. The thing is, for those of you who haven't been around when I was around in the 80s and maybe the 70s, Josie and the Pussycats is one of the biggest cartoons to ever come out at the time, during Saturday morning cartoons, even Sunday morning cartoons. It was one of the biggest shows to ever come out. It's a rather iconic cartoon that Hanna-Barbera came out with back in the day. So the fact that they have, the cool part about what they did at Riverdale is that they did a race swap with her, because the original Josie and the Josie that's on the Josie that's on in the movie, because there's a movie based on it too, those Josies were white. So Riverdale and the people who, the Belanti Productions behind Riverdale decided to race swap a lot of characters, one of which was Josie, which was awesome. And they made her a really prominent character in the show. And she left the show last season. I thought she was just leaving the show. I didn't know that she was going to be in another show and do it there because just to connect with this Katie Keene show. I feel like she should have had her own show. Like the whole Josie and the Pussycats thing, they did that so dirt on that show because the whole Josie and the Pussycats gang was in there. Like if they could have, what they could have done, what I would have loved for them to have done was they could have jumped on and pulled the trigger on Josie having her own show by not showing the Pussycats in the actual show and just having Josie there. And then shortly after leaving the show to pursue her own career and then joining the Pussycats and then finding Alexandria and all these other people. So now she's just another she's a prominent, iconic character only just as a side character on a new show that is spinning off of Archie. So this woman will never get in her actual own show on the CW, in the Riverdale universe. That to me, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. That really rubs me the wrong way. So now we got Sabrina, we got Riverdale, we got Katie Keene. And I gotta say it, it's like, and I love what the Berlanti Productions has done. They have been doing a lot of great representation in there, but I just feel like they dropped the ball by not doing Josie and the Pussycats. And even furthermore, the funny part is she's going into the city to pursue her career. That could have been a perfect time for her to create Josie and the Pussycats. I for the first time, I really think that they dropped the ball on that one, and it just making her a side deal. Like we have no, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. But Katie Keene is coming out. Also, Nancy Drew is coming out, and I've been slightly told that was going to be a spinoff of Riverdale as well. So I'm not a big Nancy Drew fan. I never watched the Nancy Drew show back in the day, but it's coming out. So if you guys are, I know there's some old school Nancy Drew fans out there that'll be checking it out. So that's that for that situation. Then we got Arrow, the final season, premiering October 15th on the CW. We know that Oliver will inevitably die by the time Crisis on Infinite Earth comes, according to the Monitor, who took him away and Felicity away last season. This season will only be 10 episodes, and I guess that's leading up to the Crisis right there, so it'll continue off from there, and will give us all of what we need to know about Team Arrow, as well as the future Team Arrow in 2049, which I'm actually hoping after watching last season that they do entirely new show with that future cast, because I actually like the whole entire deal. I thought they had legs to stand on, so I would love to see what they did. And it was also said that the new villain for this last season is going to be Deathstroke, but under the helm of Slade's son, who's taken over the helm of Deathstroke at this point. So another big shoes to fill for that part. But at least it's his son. He can do what he wants on this note. But unlike the other character from Titans, he is supposed to be Slade. So that's a whole deal right there. Watchmen, the much anticipated new series on HBO, is coming October 20th. I am going to find a way to watch that show. Maybe I can go for HBO Go for a bit and watch a season, watch the season and everything, because that looks like it's going to be really good. Regina King looks awesome as this vigilante character on a show, and I am very interested in seeing the aftermath of everything that happened from the movie and the graphic novel, and it's going to be very interesting as well. So I'm just looking for it. Don Johnson is going to be in here as well. It's going to be a few other crazy strong cast in there. So, folks, if I'm more anticipating for anything in this show, anything on this series this fall, I'm going to say all of the CW shows. So I want to see how all of this actually goes into the Crisis on Infinite Earth. And I'm expecting Crisis on Infinite Earth to be extremely epic and to see what's coming best. And if you're a DC fan, I believe you should know what's coming, because this is going to be a lot of this is going to be inspired and based on the actual comic. So I do predict Superman is dying. I absolutely predicted that's what's going to happen. I'm going to say it. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Superman is dying. They're going to do that iconic scene where Supergirl is going to be carrying Clark's body. And that's going to be it. It's going to be a big twist. I bet you so. I'm looking forward to all that as well as Watchmen. And, and Riverdale pretty much. So just say all of them. just all of them except for that Katie Keene one. I don't know if I'm going to invest in that one too much, but the rest of the shows, I'm still looking forward to it, and I've been enjoying every one of these shows since the beginning. It's been like 8 years I've been watching this stuff, man, and we've been watching this stuff. So it again, after all these years, even 11 years of Marvel, about 8 years of CW. It's still a great time to be a fan. And on that note, folks, we're going to wrap it up here for A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. Thank you guys so very, very much for joining this episode. Next week is going to be the 200th episode, and we're going to just look back on things. Maybe I have a clip or two of some things that, from the show, from some exclusives or whatnot, and just talk about things. And whatever topic comes up, if there's something breaking news that'll come up, we'll bring it up next week as well. So we'll talk about all that and much, much more. So stay tuned for that. But on Select Start, I will give a really interesting review of a game by Way Forward and Arc System Works, River City Girls. It is a spinoff from River City Ransom. The Kanoe-Con series is back under some new characters, some new faces, and trust me, there is a lot to talk about this game. So we will be talking about that, plus Super Kirby's Clash. I will talk about that as well, and any other news going on in the world of gaming as well. So stay tuned for all that. Thanks so much. Again, listen to this and every other episode on Talk Time Live, as well as iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, and Podbean, and possibly Spotify very soon. Still got to work on that. And as I mentioned before, if you want to check out the exclusive interviews that we have with some of the best and brightest in all things anime, comics, movies, and games, you go to the exclusive section on the top left of TalkTimeLive.com, or directly type in TalkTimeLive.com/exclusives from there and enjoy some of the best interviews I have ever had to have over the years since I've started this. So, folks, that will do it. On behalf of myself, this is Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Folks, have a great week. Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.